ex-boyfriend. Y'all were married.
Yes, sir, we were.
Why is she referring to you as her ex-boyfriend?
I have no idea, sir. We're legally married, sir.
Is that a fact? Just probation?
I
I mean,
don't
just
have
probable
any, I
cause
don't have
that
any
they
document.
write just what is told. Why would anybody, why would a married person, ceremonially married, say it's my ex-boyfriend? I mean, that's just bizarre. Mm. And listen, and she said, you grabbed her, threw her to the ground, and punched her with a closed fist. About the most unmanly thing you can do to punch out girls. It's not, those kind of people were dealt with pretty severely where I grew up. That you don't punch girls. You don't punch guys. You shouldn't be doing that. But picking on a girl is kind of weak in the character. I don't like this. Second time you've been convicted of burglarizing with assaulting behavior. So we're going to put you through some training that you should have learned when you were a child. And that is respecting others, especially people you claim you love. Or what do we need to do? Do you only have any contact with this person until I tell you? Do you have a GPS device?
Yes,
so
sir.
we know where you are?
Yes,
What kind of?
we monitor that.
Right. What else can we do?
I mean, he's in BIP right now. He is doing what we're requiring of him.
Okay,
So
anything else we need?
at this point, just, continue to have no contact with her, and then maybe we review it again at a later time once he's completed that program.
Okay, how long is it going to take?
He still has 10 sessions, which is 10 weeks. So I would say at least 3 or 4 months.
Okay, we're going to review it in 3 months. All right, get a resetting. And these are 2 cases here, not only the burglary, but the evading arrest that he was pleaded to. Chadston Brightson, John?
They said that's good. I don't know if we can reschedule.
It was set for a hearing.
It's ready for evidentiary hearing for you to make a decision, but I never.
On a motion to revoke probation, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when can we do that?
I'm actually missing my detective that I need
Yeah,
for this judge.
Let's
so
set
can we
it for
have a
some
reset?
day.
Yeah,
Set
that's
it
fine with me, whatever date y'all want to set it for. I could be available.
1 week.
Won't be here.
Yes.
The 12th. we're hearing, Judge.
Friday, it's the state farm,
Oh,
and then it's the holiday, the 19th.
Whatever,
2 weeks.
whatever works for you.
Let's set for 2 weeks
Sounds
on a Friday. Can we do that?
good. Yeah.
What did she say?
It would be 3 weeks because 2 weeks is the holiday. So then you would want the next week.
That, whatever works, I'm good for that.
Okay, 3 weeks and then we'll get something hopefully done. Whitney Beck. Whitney Beck, where's Whitney Beck? Is she in custody?
She's running late. She can call. Be here at say.
Eden Jones, please. Hello. Do you have an attorney? And this is a motion to revoke probation pending, right?
Yes.
Well, you don't have an attorney? I mean, let's see, this is costs and arrearages and restitution. Well, I mean, here's the deal is that it's a second degree felony of aggravated assault. You were sentenced to 2 years or basically 5 years. How did that happen?
That's on.
Hold on for just a second. I'm asking a rhetorical question on this one.
Yes,
How
sir.
did that happen? How did she get a regular probation on an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon? I didn't think we could do that.
Well, we have additional problems in that regard.
You are. Yeah.
If you want to read my notes there, and I'll share all that on YouTube. If you can read my handwriting.
All right, well, get me,
I'm gonna take care of that. I'm sorry, I didn't see that till just now.
all right. Okay, we're gonna, this estate's looking into something, ma'am, and we're gonna hold this in abeyance here. I want you back, next week, Wednesday. On a Wednesday for a review of where we stand on this.
It's either Tuesday or Thursday, Wednesdays for integrate pictures. I don't have to put that.
Tuesday, yes, Tuesday, okay. Thank you today.
Man, the young man,
He's what?
he has done, we suspended his 180-day weekend jail, so he's been working weeks that
Yeah, okay, what is this, what is the status?
he's doing very well. He is working, he's paying all fees, he's doing his he's working on his GED class and he can,
Where are you in that?
I downloaded an app on my phone because I cannot become the
Where are you in it?
uh
Have you begun it yet?
I have a little bit. I have to do it on it. It shows me a video on it and then it makes me take pop quiz on
And then you get your GED? There's gotta be more, there's gotta be more than that. I mean, it's a high school equivalency, which means 12 grades are thrown into that process. And generally it occurs over a period of time that's longer than 10 or 15 minutes.
I called the Texas workforce place and as I was going right there to take my class and they gave me a phone number to call. I've been calling, but the person that I'm supposed to be calling hasn't answered.
Okay, so the burden is on you to work to get it done.
So
Okay. There's nothing wrong with an education. It's maybe the most important and meaningful thing you can really do in life because it helps you make better decisions and keeps you out of this courtroom on cases like aggravated robbery. Okay. What do we want to do to that?
you continue him, just let him continue to work and be productive. And if he violates in any way, is he not compliance?
Okay, do we need to set this for a review or anything like that? Because I'm curious about where he's going in his education. You know, that's what I want to know about.
If he falls off in compliance, Your Honor.
Okay, because that's important. That opens doors of opportunity. You gave me this document. Do you want to put this in the file?
I wanted,
Yeah, I'll scan it in.
Man?
yes, one in the file, please, just so we.
No.
Correct.
Okay, good luck. Keep doing good things. Yes, thank you. Jessica Moya. Jessica Moya, please. Is she here? Jessica Moya? No answer. I asked the bailiff to call into the hall for Jessica Moya. Actually, it's Mota Para. Did you see her out there by any chance?
I'm not sure.
Well, just covering, it's not a normal person.
It's a way to do it, but you have the left hand and the right hand direction. These look like, yeah, community service, money,
The money is shifting.
tons of restitution. Come forward. You Jessica Mota?
Yes.
You've been on probation here since February 4th of 13 years ago.
Yes.
And this is all about really money, right?
Yes, sir.
There's something about performing community service hours, but I'm more concerned about the restitution of $30,000+ to the victims that are still to be paid.
I see some notes from the prior hearing judge that you waived the remaining community service hours to have her focus on restitution.
Is that what everybody shows?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then why do we, okay, this was a motion to revoke probation that was filed 3 years ago. So I don't see anything on it that we, wrote on, but I don't have a problem with the community service hours. I just want you to work to pay the people back the loss. The restitution was ordered in the amount of $53,485 originally, and that was 13 years ago. And so what's the balance today?
The balance today is $16,677, with her last payment being on May 29th in the amount of $501.
Okay, 16,000.
$677, yes, sir.
How much out of this whole amount how much have you paid toward this restitution over time now?
I paid.
About $40,000.
Mhm.
All right, I'm pleased. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll all celebrate when all this is done, but this is important. Not only the victim, but this is for the court and for you as well. You were placed on deferred or unadjudicated probation, which means at the end you do well. The case is dismissed
Yes, sir.
without a conviction.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where are you working?
I work for Dr. Bott.
Okay, and how much money are you able to pay a month on this restitution?
Paying $520 a month.
You are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in 12 months, what is that? 62,000, which would more than pay this. 6,000, I mean, which would go well toward almost paying that off.
Mhm.
So,
That's the goal.
all right, we review when? 6 months?
6 months.
Okay, maybe we can celebrate.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Please get a recess. Yes, ma'am. Jay Nelson?
Just.
Jay Nelson? No answer in the courtroom. I asked the bailiff to call into the hall for Jay
Yeah, I get you.
Nelson, please.
Yeah.
This was,
It's a safety review.
This is from probation.
there's no response to the name called here in the courtroom. No response to that name called in the hall. Defendant has failed to appear. There was a resetting ordered for today and for review of status, and the defendant has failed to appear. What can probation tell me about things? I'm looking at an administrative hearing memo that was dated May 28th, a week ago or so, and it's not looking good. And failed to report to probation,
Yes, sir.
failed to submit the alcohol drug screenings. Oh,
He completed the entire safety continuum and stopped reporting. I've talked to him once. I tried to call him today. He doesn't answer text messages, letters, or
well, that's his obligation, not for you to go find him, but for him to report his directly. I am signing this order, ordering a motion to revoke probation to be filed, and then we'll deal with it. When, yep, we'll order, a motion. Thank you, for trying to help this guy, but sometimes people work against themselves. And hold on for just a second. He's looking at a second degree felony of burglary of a habitation, so he's looking at up to 20 years. 10 years deferred, yep. That's gonna sting. Leatrice Washington, please. That's you, ma'am? Okay. So this one is another money thing. You were placed on probation and there was a ton of restitution ordered. And we are headed toward a decade. Okay. Well, what's the update?
So she has made a total credit of $37,641 since she's been on probation. She has been earned and doing what she can each month. She has amount due is still $137,619 as of today. And we are coming up on her expiration in October of this year. And her last payment was made on June 3rd in the amount of $802.
Do you have a set amount that you're able to pay per month? Is it different amounts she pays each month? It's what she can,
Yes,
huh?
yes, sir.
Okay. It's very effective. So it's averaging out over a decade at $300 a month. Right at $300 a month. So there's still a significant amount of money still left, right?
Yes, sir.
What'd you say the balance was?
As of today, it's $137,619.
Scanning of the such as salaries, pages, it's just since I'm exactly on motion.
You're right.
Hold on.
Judge.
Hold on. So. Okay, at this rate, that's 45 years.
Yeah.
We should live so long.
Yeah.
But I mean, the rule of law is pay what you can. So what are we doing to do what you can? That's all I need to know.
So I did do an amendment for all of her payments to go to the restitution because it's sizable.
Thanks. Yeah, let's just focus on restitution.
As far as future, I would recommend possibly filing an MTRP to keep her case open so we can try to get as many payments as we can.
What's the anniversary date
October 16th.
of this year?
Yes, sir.
We're going to have to do that, which means you get processed in, but there's it's a personal recognizance bond.
Yes, sir.
That I would set, which means you don't have to have, it's not an amount that you have to come up with. just your actual presence that bonds you in and bonds you out. So the income is based upon what source?
So I really work a little overtime to make those payments. And what I was gonna say is that yes, I paid a little bit more than that, but originally until recently, all the payments weren't going to restitution. I paid a little over 50,000, but all of them wasn't going towards restitution. It just currently, recently, just started doing
Okay, well, it's going to all go toward restitution from here on, and we. Let me see her phone again, please. Just. Let's see, that was almost $200,000 embezzled from the company. What did you do with that money?
Actually, it was spent towards different things. It was spent towards different medical procedures. It was needed that I didn't have insurance for the time. It was just a lot of really things that shit but I think most definitely sound.
Yeah.
But then the next thing was happening and I was trying to take it.
Yeah, I just wish we could have gotten to you early and said, nope, you're spending unwisely.
Absolutely.
All right. Because this is gonna last a while at this rate. I want you to live a long time. But this is, we're talking, at this rate, it's another 45 years. Okay, well, let's review in
6 months.
6 months, okay? Thank you. Good resetting. Anything from the state? I know you had.
Nothing
You were
from the
gonna.
state, Judge.
Did
Nothing
we
from-
cover what you were gonna? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I know how you do math. I know, I was trying to beat you to that. All right,
I was cheating though, Judge. I was using a calculator.
fourth place in number sense in state. That's where I ended up in high school. Math was just, that was one thing I could do. Okay, anything else on this? All right, let's get ready for the trial. Yeah. What did we do on Whitney Beck?
She just showed up. She had thought she was here.
Okay. Come on up. Whitney Beck. Where's Whitney Beck?
Have the file.
Come on up. Up your phone. This is a review,
Yes.
probation review. And where are we on this? It was scheduled as judicial review from an administrative hearing memo sent to me on in March of this year, which alleged several things.
I'm sorry, I'm late. I didn't get a
And
notice.
this alleged well, an uncertain thing about a injurious or vicious habits in violation 2 of your probation order. Failing to obtain permission to leave Texas. The state testing positive for THC. Really?
Yes.
Failing to remain off the premises of any bar, tavern, or similar place. Failing to perform community service. Failing to abstain from the use of intoxicating substances. Failing to submit to alcohol, drug screening at the direction of the probation office, and then behind in court fees here. All right, what does anybody want to say before I say something about where this should head?
So we requested the judicial review simply because originally when we called Ms. Beck in to speak, it was about simple allegations that we were hoping to intervene with. It wasn't until the original hearing took place and we requested UA and behaviors started taking place in which were not acceptable. However, on that day, she submitted a urine sample that was cold. And so attempting to get that done or redone, a new sample, she began to have anxiety and things, and it just escalated. So we asked her to leave the building and we would come back on.
Today,
Well, this was at administrative level. And we tried to come back again and do the same thing, and we just aren't having success having any conversation with that. So that's what we requested the judicial review for.
okay. What's they say?
I'd like to hear what you say, Judge.
I want a motion to revoke probation.
Okay, we can get that filed.
We could do that today.
Your Honor, please, I just not half of what is actually true, sir.
That's why we're going to have a hearing and we will see, but I trust my probation office. My probation office has almost a 95% success rate. The national average is 75. They try hard for success on the people, and that's what I want. And I've done this for almost 20 years, and it's always the defendant at fault, not the probation office. Failing to, let's see, I don't even know what that one is. That's a nebulous one. Failing to obtain permission to leave Texas in March. Testing positive for THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, marijuana. Failing to remain off the premises of any bar, tavern, lounge, or similar place. Let's see. Has not completed any of the court order. Has she completed any court-ordered community service?
I have to pay for it.
I'm asking her, and then I'll ask you, Miss Budinsky. I can see where we are on this. The tail is wagging the dog. You're on probation, but I know what you're doing. I know what this. You want to be on your own probation terms. See, I know how you are. I recognize this.
Your Honor, none of the hours have been completed.
None have been completed.
In
Okay.
order for her to pay or to be eligible for a particular program, in order to spend money on community service, she would have to be current on her fees.
You've been on probation for how long?
I'm almost done, almost 2 years, sir.
My question was, you've been on probation for how long?
2 years, sir.
2 years.
Yes, sir.
Zero community supervision, community service, zero. What was this about the failed to submit the alcohol drug screening on February 24th? Tampered and tainted the UA sample. That was the cold urine that came out of her 98.6 degrees body.
Yes.
It's not possible.
You just, once again, you're going to have a chance to speak, Miss Budinsky. That's rude. We learned that in kindergarten. And then owing a balance. Okay. Anything you want to say now? This is your chance. You've been
Yes,
trying to interrupt
I'm sorry.
long enough. But I can guarantee you, cold urine is not a natural
No,
phenomenon.
sir, it's not.
Okay, so it's their fault? Did they do something
No,
wrong?
sir.
Oh.
I'm not saying they did.
Oh.
No, sir. I just know that it's not possible as well.
Okay,
The test strips, don't know what could have been wrong, but they have you pee in a plastic cup, not a one with temperature. And only reason and I never left any state. I have no idea what accusations. I've been going through a custody battle with my son. I had to spend $10,000 recently. That's why I'm behind. I plan on getting caught up as soon as that hearing is done. I have one more hearing. I just got a vehicle. My car blew up in March. I've been having to catch a ride to work. It's not an excuse, but
no,
I've been getting it done.
all right.
Your Honor, we do have a second test that was disputed for marijuana. It did come back from the lab confirmed positive for THC.
Okay.
So.
Okay. We've got an anniversary date of this probation too coming up. Right?
That's all good.
The court is going to order a motion to revoke probation to be filed, then we'll have a hearing on it and everybody will get heard and we'll figure out what direction that needs to go in. But these are disturbing. And I'm really anxious to hear the story about the urine. Because this is a science and you don't urinate cold urine. It's your body temperature that comes out. And also the test, the drug test,
The second,
that drug test was confirmed by a more accurate subsequent test, which confirmed the marijuana, which is forbidden.
Most definitely.
All right. Anyway, we'll file a motion and then we'll go from there, okay? Anything else on that? Get a resetting for review in 4 weeks to see where the motion to revoke probation is. Just, I want to review on her for enforce our. Okay, let's get ready for trial. You're in recess, short. Oh. Daniel?
That would be.
Okay. Come forward, please, sir. Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
And please have a seat there. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can you state your name and spell it for the court reporter, please?
David Walker Spence. Spence, Spence.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a forensic chemist. I work at the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences. I got a problem with throat.
Do you need some water or anything?
No. The Dallas County Crime Lab. I've been there for 27 years.
And before that, were you employed at another lab?
Yes, sir, I was. I started in 1986. I started with the Texas Department of Public Safety Crime Lab, originally as a breath test technical supervisor, stationed in Wichita Falls. I then transferred to the headquarters crime lab in Austin. I spent approximately 9 years as a 37th examiner. Then I trained to be a drug chemist. I was transferred to the DPS crime lab in Houston. Prior to coming to Dallas, this is Swift of the Southwest Institute.
And just a little bit of background education. What type of education did you have before you started working at these laboratories?
Yes, I've got a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry with a minor in mathematics.
And the laboratory you work for, is it certified by the state of Texas?
Yes, it is accredited. It's accredited by ANAB, recognized by the Forensic Science Commission.
Okay. Back in October of 2023, were you working for the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences at Dallas?
Yes, sir.
And were you in the capacity of a scientist, forensic scientist who's dealt with gunshot residue?
Yes, I was.
Let's kind of give the jury an explanation of gunshot residue. What is gunshot residue?
So there are basically two types of gunshot residue, but specifically in this case, I'm talking about primer gunshot residue. The primer gunshot residue are residue particles that originate within the primer cup of a cartridge. So there's a chemical mixture that contains elements of antimony, barium, and lead. And those chemical elements create a positive mixture that once the firing pin strikes the primer cup, it will ignite the gunpowder, causing the projectile to be sent down range through the barrel.
And can that, whenever someone fires or handles a weapon, can that be transferred to a person's clothing or a person's body?
Yes, so when a firearm is discharged, there's a vaporous cloud of those elements from the primer cup. And they can be deposited on the hands of the person firing the firearm or in the space immediately around the weapon or downrange towards the target. So anybody in vicinity of or coming into contact with those residues could potentially have those residue particles on their hands and or clothing.
They say potentially that there is a possibility, just to be fair, that a person firing a firearm could not have gunshot residue on their hands. Is that correct?
That is also correct, yes.
And is that due to different things, type of weapon, weather, things of that nature?
Yeah, so the type of firearm involved may have an effect on that. Semi-automatic firearms typically don't deposit as much residue as a revolver type handgun. And then you can have environmental factors, such as wind or rain or physical activity, contact with other objects, can remove residue from your hands and or clothing.
So if it was like hours between the actual shooting and the actual testing, that could have an effect as to whether they wash their hands, rub something, have their hands in their pockets, anything of that nature.
Yes. So not an analogy I've used for many years is back in the old days when teachers used chalk to write on the chalkboard. Before you pick up the stick of chalk, let's just say you have no chalk dust on your hand. But as soon as you pick up the stick of chalk, you get chalk dust on your hand. And as you're writing, you get more residue on your hand. But then when you put down the stick of chalk, over time, every time you touch other objects, clothing, books, desk or whatever, those residue particles transfer and are removed from your hands. So over a period of time, typically 4 to 6 hours, residue may be removed or reduced to non-detectable levels. Also, if you wash your hands, just simple water, washing with water or soap and water would certainly remove those particles.
So what do we use to test someone to see if there's gunshot residue particles on their clothing or hand?
Okay, so the current sampling technique involves what we call SEM stubs, stands for scanning electron microscopy stubs. And these sampling devices are shaped like a thumbtack. There's a flat circular disc surface that's 1 centimeter in diameter, which is roughly half an inch in diameter. And then there's a pin on the bottom half of it, which is used to hold in the sampling chamber inside the electron microscope. And on the flat surface has a 2-sided adhesive tape, and that's used to basically you're tape lifting, you're dabbing that sampling device on the item that's being collected from. And it basically is tape lifting and lifting particles onto the sampling device.
Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibits 321 and 322. See if you recognize those items.
Yes, State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit. And I can identify it by our laboratory number, IFS-23-09457, our item number 3, and my initial PWS, and the date 8/7 of 23. And then for the other GSR kit is State Exhibit 322. I can identify this kit by the laboratory number, IFS-23-09457, item number 2, My initial is DWS and the date 8/7/23.
Now, I've opened one of those items for detectives to look at, but when these arrive at your laboratory, are they in a sealed condition?
Yes, they are.
Will y'all accept them if they're not in a sealed condition, or will you know if they're not in a sealed condition?
We accept them, but we will note the condition of the seal when we receive it. It's actually pretty rare that they're not sealed, but we will seal them and make notation as to the condition and what we did.
Both of these were sealed when they arrived, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and states 321, who is that a gunshot residue collection from?
State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue kit from Jaron Athens.
And states 322, what is that?
This is a gunshot residue kit from Armani Wallace.
Interstates 321 and 322.
No objection.
Admitted. Let's kind of get these out so they can see what's inside of States Exhibit 321. They would both be the same items in there, just different testing, is that correct?
Typically, yes. That's typically.
So looking at these items in here, what do we see here?
Okay, so there are two sampling devices and they're contained within a sampling device container. The orange colored piece is the base where the pin of the sampling device is retained. It basically holds it in place so it doesn't come into contact with any other surface. And then a clear cap. So each one of these will have a sampling device contained within the plastic vial.
And these are pulled and rubbed on the outside of the hands as they go. I think the detective says it goes along inside this portion of the hand and the top of them, from the back. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I can't speak specifically to who collected this particular set of sampling devices, but typically this region of the hand and the back of the hand, some other sampling devices, they do both the back and the palm of the hand.
Now, also contained inside of State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue analysis information form. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is the purpose of this? Let me zoom it in more. What is the purpose of this form?
So this typically is used by law enforcement. They will document the collecting officer's name, in this particular case, the name, the badge number, the agency and the agency case number. And then subject information, the name of the individual the samples are being collected from, their date of birth, whether they're living, whether they're left-handed or right-handed, whether they handle a firearm.
So there's one question here that says, has subject washed his or her hands since shooting? And this one was checked what?
That was not checked. Wait, no, the subject activity. Oh, unknown.
Okay.
It was on the wrong box.
And the person was in custody, is that correct at the time?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So down here we have the shooting information. What is important about the shooting information?
So the shooting information will document the date and time of the offense or the activity, as well as the location, which in this indicates in the parking lot. And sometimes if they know what ammunition was fired, they will have information regarding the handgun or the firearm that was used, as well as the caliber and the manufacturer of the ammunition.
Why is that important?
We don't use it necessarily in my analysis, but it helps to document some of the facts that are known at the time.
So this one just says the date and time that occurred. Can you read that? Can you look back behind you?
March 18th.
If you need to look behind you, you can. There's a screen back behind you. Stand up if you need to.
I think over your left shoulder. There we go. Thanks, Tom.
Yes, March 18th of 23 at 2:53 a.m.
And down here at the bottom, is this the collecting officer's signature?
It would appear to indicate that, yes.
And when did he actually take this?
On March 18th of 2023 at 7:08 AM.
So this is about 4 hours?
Just a little over 4 hours. Yes.
Lonnie Wallace, we're going to, we'll cover that at another date. But right now I want to talk about your report.
Okay.
Did you prepare a report about items that you received in this case
Yes, I did.
and the testing of those items?
Yes. I did.
And let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 450. Is this a copy that you handed me of your report?
Yes, I'm looking at the pages. Okay, yes, this is a gunshot residue test report with our laboratory number IFS 23-09457. And it's a gunshot residue testing report that I generated. It consists of 6 pages.
Interstakes 450. No objection.
No objection, it is admissible.
Yes. Okay. I didn't hear it. I was waiting on him. Okay. He's waiting on me and I'm waiting on him.
Admit it again.
Okay, thank you. So at the top of this report, we have the title of your institute, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that where you performed this test?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the report date is October 11th, 2023, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that the date you tested it or is that just the date of the report?
That's the date of the report.
So let's talk about when you test an item, how do you go about testing specifically that item for gunshot residue?
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about how we received the evidence. The evidence is submitted to our laboratory. It's received in our evidence registration unit where they assign a case number and an item number. And then they store it in a secured vault until it's time for me to pull the evidence to work on it. So once I have the evidence in my custody, I take inventory, I make notes of what I've received, the items, the lab number, and then I open the evidence kit and itemize each individual sampling device, or actually on the vial, write case number, item number, initials and dates. And then we do a microscopic or stereoscopic examination, just looking at the surface of the sampling device to see if there's any obvious hair, blood, or possibly gunpowder flakes, different stuff, different types of debris. Then we at the same time, we have what we call a negative batch control or environmental control, which is simply an unused sampling device. It's the same type of device that is in the GSS kit. So once we assemble a set of kits in a batch, we then place each one of the sampling devices into an instrument that's called a carbon coater. And we evaporate a very thin layer of carbon on the surface of each one of the sample devices. And that's used to aid in the analysis in a scanning electron microscope. So once we've done that, we then load the sampling devices into the stage in the chamber of the scanning electron microscope, which is also equipped with an X-ray detector. So utilizing the scanning electron microscope and the X-ray detector, there's software that will perform an automated scan and of each sampling device. It'll scan the surface of each sampling device. And for every particle that the instrument flags as a potential GSR particle, it will collect a very quick image of the particle as well as a quick X-ray spectra from the particle. So once the automated analysis completes, we get a large spreadsheet, depending on the number of particles. We get a spreadsheet of potential particles that were classified as gunshot residue by the software. And so we don't rely on that, but we use that as a starting point. And if we will tell the instrument to relocate those specific particles that we believe are gunshot residue, we take a new image and a new X-ray spectra of it for a much longer period of time, so we get better element data. So from that, we have an image of the particle and we have the X-ray spectra, which gives us elemental composition information for the response.
So what offense did this show that the purpose of the testing was for?
So we draw that from the submission form. It says aggravated assault
And
homicide.
okay. And the complainants?
So there's two names, Armando Camargo and Geraldo Escamilla.
Okay. And the suspects?
Jaron Battles, Cameron Broussard, Jaquan Lee Cooper, and Armani Wallace.
So let's look at the evidence that was submitted. Is this what was received by your laboratory?
Yeah, yes, those are received from Beaumont Police Department.
Okay. So you look at your list if you need to. We'll just go down. Item 1. What is that?
So item 1 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Jaquan Lee Cooper.
And 1-1. What is the difference? Why we go 1 to 1-1 and 1-2?
Okay, so the envelope that I showed you earlier, that would be item 1 is the envelope. And then we sub-itemize the contents of the envelope. So each sampling device, so if the envelope is 1, then one sampling device will be 1-1, the other will be 1-2. So we're sub-itemizing each individual sampling device.
So what was 1-1?
So 1-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Jaquan Lee Cooper.
And 1-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Jaquan Lee Cooper.
Okay, what was item 2 that you received?
Item 2 was a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Armani Wallace.
And inside that, what was 2-1?
2-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Armani Wallace.
And 2-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Armani Wallace.
And item 3?
Item 3 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Jaron Battles.
And 3-1, what was that?
3-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Jaron Battles.
And 3-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Jaron Battles.
And item 4?
Item 4 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Cameron Broussard.
And 4-1?
4-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Cameron Broussard.
And 4-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Cameron Broussard.
So why are we going 5-1 instead of 5?
So I believe there was a bag or container containing clothing.
Okay.
So we don't always list the outer containers, but the items contained within it, especially for clothing. So so there are going to be multiple items of clothing contained within a container.
Okay. So 5-1, what was that?
5-1 is a red sweater from Armani Wallace.
And 5-2?
That is a pair of red sweatpants from Armani Wallace.
And 5-3?
That is a white t-shirt from Armani Wallace.
Okay, and 6-1?
6-1 is a pair of white sweatpants from Jaron Battles.
7-1?
That is a red hoodie from Jaron Battles.
And 7-2?
That is a white t-shirt from Jaron Battles.
And 7-3?
That is a red bandana from Jared Valleys.
Okay. So we've already gone over the GSR testing of how you do this, correct? What is this language that we have for the next couple of pages of your testing?
Okay, so the title for that section is description of analysis, and it's broken into multiple parts. And basically, the reason we put that in there is sometimes in a criminal case, people accept a plea bargain. They don't actually go to trial. And so we're not called as a witness. So we put verbiage into the report so the attorneys, we can educate the attorneys as to what we actually do and what the results mean. So basically it's to aid the attorneys in that process.
So all the things you just testified to about how you test it and what it means, that's in that language.
Correct.
Now, there is something that we do have particles consistent with gunshot primer residue, but those only contain some parts. Is that correct?
Yes, so the goal, or what we typically look for primarily, are what we call characteristic particles. And those are going to be individual particles that have the elements antimony, barium, and lead. And that the only reliable source of those particles is from firearms. Now, sometimes, well, a lot of times we get two of the three elements. We don't get all three, we get two. So we may have barium lead particles or barium antimony particles, but also in addition to that, sometimes we get barium and aluminum particles. And those are all common to gunshot residue, but they're not exclusive to gunshot residue. They can come from other environmental sources.
But what you're looking for is the extra element that only comes from gunshot primer residue, not from these elements, right?
That is correct, yes.
You talked about how you interpret it and your testimony. That's also in page 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's on part B of page 2.
Okay, part B. Now, because there's gunshot residue, let's just make sure that they understand, and I don't know if I made it clear. Because there's gunshot residue on a person's clothing or hand, does that necessarily mean they fired a firearm?
No, it does not.
Okay, so let's talk about what does it mean, or how can people get gunshot residue on their hand, either firing a firearm or otherwise?
So there are different ways to get residue particles, gunshot residue particles on their hands. One would be that the individual fired a firearm, or two is that they are in the proximity of a firearm when the firearm is discharged. Or three is that you come into contact with a firearm component such as a cartridge case or other object that has gunshot residue on it.
So you everything that you've testified is in the first 3 pages of your report. Is that correct?
Yes.
So let's get to page 4 where the results and conclusions of what you found in each one of these items.
Okay.
And this says at the top of the page, the results reported apply only to the tested items. Is correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So under results and conclusions, what do we have listed under results and conclusions, that first paragraph?
So the first paragraph states that the white T-shirt from Armani Wallace, item 5-3, comma, the white T-shirt from Jaron Battles, item 7-2, comma, and the red bandana from Jaron Battles, parentheses, item 7-3, were examined visually. However, they were not sampled for the presence of primary gunshot wounds.
Why would you not sample the white T-shirts and things under that they're wearing next to their skin?
So we typically do not sample underlying garments. So if you have a sweater or hoodie or jacket covering a T-shirt, the residue will be deposited on the outer surface. So we don't typically analyze the underlying garments.
Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. This one starts off with, primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on items 1.1 and 1.2. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so the second paragraph states that primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses item 1-1 and 1-2, used to collect residue from the hands of Jaquan B. Cooper. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hand could be due to the individual. And then 1 is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2, discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant, parentheses, characteristic or, parentheses, consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3 is washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component, or object with primary gunshot residue.
So the ideal thing is to catch them right after they do it and then get somebody to be able to swab them immediately.
Yes, ideally, it'd be best if you can collect the sample as soon as possible after an incident occurs.
Is that?
The longer you wait, the less chance of finding particles on those surfaces.
So when you have, is it always possible to swab somebody right away? Or do sometimes things interfere?
Typically, there's going to be some time frame between an offense and time the individual is captured and evidence collected from their hands or clothing.
So let's go to the next one, the 1 particle.
Yes. So 1 particle, in parentheses 1, particle characteristic of primary gunshot residue was confirmed on, and then we list item 2-1, which is a sampling device from the left hand of Armani Wallace. There were 0 particles. Then item 2-2 was a sampling device from the right hand of Armani Wallace. There was 1 particle. And the presence of this particle on an individual's hand could be due to the individual firing a firearm, being in proximity of the firearm when it was fired, or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue on it.
So when we get to each one of these, we test. If it tests positive, that's going to be listed below each one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the ones that we did before where there's nothing on it, that's going to those items under are going to be listed each time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we can just do the results. So
the verbiage may be slightly different when it's a garment.
Okay, well, we'll get to that when we get to the garment. So let's do this. The next paragraph.
Let's see. This is on
Line 3.1.
3.1. Okay. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices. Parentheses items 3-1 and 3-2 used to collect residues from the hands of Jaron Bowers. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hands could be due to the individual. 1 is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3, washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, let's go down to primary gunshot residue on 4.1, 4.2.
Okay, so primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 4-1 and 4-2, used to collect residues from the hands of Cameron Broussard. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hands could be due to the individual. 1 is not discharging a firearm or being in the close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in the close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant, characteristic, or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3 is washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, 5.1.
Okay, so sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front exterior and cuffs of the red sweater. Parentheses, item 5-1 of Armani Wallace.
Okay, let's talk about how y'all do that. What do you do when you're testing like a hoodie or sweater or coat?
Right, so our standard lab procedure on a long sleeve garment such as a jacket or sweater is we generally visually kind of break up into 6 different quadrants. So on the front of the garment, there's going to be the front upper left, the front upper right, front lower left, and front lower right, and then left cuff and right cuff. So we have 6 different sampling areas that we collect from.
So let's look at those prime or gunshot residue on 511, 51, 52, 512, 513, 514, 515, 516.
Yes. So primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices. Items 5-1-1, 5-1-2, 5-1-3, 5-1-4, 515, and 516. Used to collect residues from the red sweater, parentheses 5-1 from Armani Wallace. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. Discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. Washing or wiping the garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or object with primary gunshot residue.
Now, this whole sweater on Armani Wallace, you did not find gunshot residue particles, is that correct?
That is correct.
But on his hand, you did find a particle.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay. So let's go to
Verify that real quick. Yeah, there's one on the right hand of Armani Wallace.
okay. So let's go to item 5-2.
Okay, so 5-2, sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front upper exterior of the red sweatpants, parentheses item 5-2 of our Armani Wallace. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 5-2-1 and 5-2-2, used to collect residues from the red sweatpants, parentheses item 5-2 from Armani Wallace. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual, 1, not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. And 3 is washing or wiping a garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, next paragraph on item 6-1.
Okay, sampling devices used to collect residues from the front upper exterior of the white sweatpants, parentheses item 6-1 of Jaron battles. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 6-1-1 and 6-1-2, used to collect residues from the white sweatpants, parentheses item 6-1 from Jaron battles. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual, 1, is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. Or 3, washing or wiping the garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, let's go to item 7-1.
Okay, sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front, exterior, and cuffs of the red hoodie, parentheses, item 7-1 of Jaron Battles. One particle characteristic of primary gunshot residue was confirmed on, and I list each of the sampling devices. Item 7-1-1 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front upper left, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-2 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front upper right, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-3 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front lower left, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-4 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front lower right, there were 0 particles. On item 7-1-5, which is a sampling device from item 7-1, the left cuff, there was 1 particle. And item 7-1-6 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the right cuff, there were 0 particles. The presence of this particle on an individual's garment could be due to the individual firing a firearm, handling a firearm, a firearm component, or an object with silent gunshot residue. 2 or 3, being in proximity of a firearm when it fired. And 4 is wiping a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue on the garment.
So that disposition of the evidence, was everything returned to the arresting agency or sending agency?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So let's talk about why some of these, when you read these that don't have or do have, when it says they don't have, you said they have to have a significant amount of gunshot primary residue coming from the gun or the characteristics. What do you mean significant?
Well, some firearms, especially like bolt action rifles or break action shotguns, there's a sealed firing chamber. So almost the entire amount of primary gunshot residue is expelled through the muzzle or the end of the barrel of the firearm. The semi-automatic firearm, the firing chamber is closed at the moment the shot is fired. And then very quickly, the slide will open the chamber and then rechamber around and quickly close back up in just a split second. So in that type of firearm, the majority of the residue goes through the barrel away from the shooter. And then there's sometimes a small vaporous cloud of contained residue particles that will be in the vicinity of the hand. And sometimes we find particles, sometimes we don't. If you had a revolver, there's going to be a physical gap between the rotating cylinder and the barrel. So there's going to be a relatively large amount of residue escaping both the left and right side of the firearm. And then the remainder goes downrange through the muzzle of the barrel.
So handguns, like in State's Exhibit 10, when you're talking about semi-automatic, is this what you're talking about?
Yes, that is a semi-automatic pistol.
And when you're talking about this being closed, it's closed back at the back, is it not, when the firing occurs?
Yes. Yeah, it would be closed at the back, but I'm more concerned about the hole your thumb is
Right here?
Yeah, the ejection port of the firearm. So that is covered up by the barrel, the end of the barrel, when the slide is forward. And when you fire the firearm, the slide quickly comes back and quickly shuts. So it's only open for a split second. And there's going to be some residue come out, but not as much.
Okay.
As like typically a revolver would put out an awful lot.
And just to be fair to the defendant, State's Exhibit 321, does it state what handed, is Jared Battles right or left-handed?
The document indicates right-handed.
Okay. That doesn't enter into your,
Yeah,
whether or not it could be deposited on either hand, does it?
no, it does not. I've done my own testing over the years. I'm left-handed. If I fire single hand with the left hand, I may or may not get residue on that hand. Sometimes I get it on the non-firing hand. Sometimes if I grip it with the left hand, but secure the grip, cover my left hand with my right hand, sometimes I get more residue on the right hand. It would be in reverse for a right-handed individual. You may fire it single-handed with the right, or you may cover it with the left. But I've seen every combination. The firing hand doesn't always have residue. Sometimes it's on the non-firing hand. And sometimes it's not on either hand. Sometimes it's on both.
Thanks, sir. I'll pass one, Jeff.
On stage 10, the firearm that you were just looking at, that ejection port is on the right hand side. Is that correct?
It's at the top. And
Top right. And so the mechanism by which a semi-automatic handgun channels a new round is the gases from the explosion, the force of the explosion itself pushes the slide back, correct?
well, let me just say, I'm not a forensic firearms examiner. I'm not licensed to be a forensic firearms examiner. Some residue or some firearms have blowback mechanisms where the pressure, the gas pressure from firing a round forces the slide to go rearward and then a spring brings it forward. There are other types of mechanisms that I'm not, that's not me.
Your lab is not affiliated with the Department of Public Safety. You're an independent lab, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are there different criteria that different labs use when testing GSR kits, for instance?
Yes, different labs do have individual lab policies.
For example, a DPS lab won't accept samples taken after 4 hours. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, but your lab does, correct?
Yes, we do.
All right, and indeed, the samples that were analyzed by your lab were indeed taken more than 4 hours after the incidents, correct?
Yes, at least one of them was, no,
Certainly, Mr. Battles was, correct?
correct.
All right. And so with regard to in terms of you listed being in the vicinity of a firearm being discharged as one of the reasons that someone might have a GSR either on their hands or on their clothing. What about being in crowded spaces? Is GSR something that can rub off fairly easily? For instance, if one person fired a weapon and you brush up against their hand shortly thereafter, is it possible to pick up particles in that manner as well?
Yes, that would be considered a secondary transfer. Transfer from, if residue is originally deposited on a hand, and that hand comes into contact with another object, that would be a secondary transfer from the first object to the second.
In your report, on the first page at the top, it says request 0002. What is that just a reference to the request that came in that day? Is that a request specific to that agency that's requesting a report?
So the request number is specific to our laboratory. So in some cases, we have only one submission that goes to one unit within the laboratory. And there's going to be multiple requests. There's going to be an evaluation request where each section involved in the case can evaluate the evidence that was submitted to see whether or not it's relevant to that section. But let's say there's a trace evidence request. We're gonna have a request to evaluate the evidence that was submitted just by looking at paperwork. And then if we determine that we need to do contract residue testing, that will become another request. And let's say there's bloody objects that may go through our forensic DNA unit. They may get a blood screening request and then a DNA screening request.
So
Each case can have multiple different request numbers.
all generated at the same time because it's different components of testing like DNA and GSR.
They may not be necessarily at the same time, but over a period of time as individual units pick up evidence and create analysis requests, they're generated kind of as you go.
I guess what I'm asking is, it isn't necessarily that those numbers will be generated in steps. That is, you do an analysis and then the agency comes back to you and says, do this additional analysis, and therefore there's a new request number. But that if the agency sends you multiple materials to be tested, all of those numbers would be different requests. Is that correct?
Not entirely. So, for instance, if we do an analysis and the agency says, hey, can you do some additional work on that same evidence, that may become a supplemental report. Well, I guess technically it will have a new request number. If we have DNA or drugs or some other sections, there'll be request numbers for each one of those different requests.
In terms of different lab policies for the acceptance or testing of various articles, do you know why an agency might choose to send some materials to one lab and other materials to another? Is that something that's fairly common in your field, or?
I would say it's not uncommon. It's not real common, but it's not uncommon. Especially when some of the evidence goes to the Texas DPS crime lab, they will reject evidence like GSR kits that are beyond 4 hours. They reject those. And often we get the ones that exceed the 4-hour time frame. And then sometimes one lab may be able to do a certain type of analysis, but not every type of analysis requested. So we may get evidence that a particular lab could not handle. And vice versa, they may request us to do an analysis that we're not online, we're not performing that analysis, so it may get sent back to a different lab.
So one reason that you might be asked to conduct an analysis is if materials are sent to the DPS lab and rejected, or it is known that they will be rejected if they're sent to the DPS lab. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate, yes.
Okay. And so in this case, if some GSR test kits were sent to DPS and several of those were rejected, but those weren't sent to y'all for testing, you only would you know, let me rephrase that. Let me back up. Would you know, generally speaking, if materials had previously been submitted to another lab?
Only the items, let's say, that went to DPS lab and got rejected because of whatever criteria they have. Sometimes they will put their case number and item number on a piece of evidence, and then they determine that, let's say it's a GSR kit that exceeds 4 hours. So then they reject it and they say, we don't analyze these. And then those go back typically to the agency, and the agency will then call us and ask if we can do the testing. So we do get cases that have gone through the DPS lab, rejected, they go back to agency, and then come back to our lab.
Right. So, but that wasn't the case with regard to this evaluation, correct?
I do not recall ever seeing DPS lab numbers on any of the items I tested.
Right. The envelopes that these or boxes that these materials are received in, they everything that is done with that piece of evidence at various points is generally contained on the container that the evidence is in. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, not once it is submitted to a laboratory. We will put our case number, item number, initials and date on items that we test. A lot of the GSR kits will have a little pre-printed, like a little mini chain of custody type document on the evidence envelope. We use a computer system, lab management information development system, where we track all of our internal transfers via the computer. We don't fill in a pre-printed information section on the GSR kits themselves.
And so, with regard to this specific case, is this the total number of GSR kits that was sent to your lab? In other words, would all GSR kits sent to your lab be on this report?
Yes, they would.
All right. And so, on this report, there are 4 suspects listed. Is that because the items submitted to your lab are related to those 4 suspects?
That would be a question better suited for the actual agencies that submitted the evidence. The evidence submission form that we received, we pull names off the evidence submission form. They'll list suspects and complainants. And then we list that information on our reports.
So
we don't necessarily know if there are other individuals involved that their evidence got sent to a different lab.
So to clarify, this report that you generate, that your lab generates, the list of complainant or suspects comes off of the information contained with the sample, correct?
Yes, with the evidence submission form that is submitted with the evidence.
As Mr. Cooper's, as Mr. Battles, which was shown to everybody, the one that indicates that he's right-handed, correct?
Well, that's a separate form. That's an information sheet that comes that's contained within the kids. What I'm talking about is there's a printed form that agencies fill in their submitting agency case information. And then they list, typically they list an offense, they list the complainant names and suspect names. So that's the form number for it.
All right.
So if I could expand on that. Sometimes there will be, so on the submission form, let's say there are 5 names listed. Sometimes we get GSR kits where the names are not listed on the submission form, but the names are included on the GSR kit and or on the information sheet contained within the GSR kit. So we will analyze those and we will list the names as they appear on the GSR kit. But unless we're specifically notified that they're a suspect or a complainant, sometimes they're just other individuals that they're not really a suspect, or they're just maybe a bystander and they don't show up on the submission.
Being excluded, for instance, or if you're talking about DNA evidence, for example, known contributors to a sample for that person to be excluded.
I really can't speak to the DNA because I don't know exactly what they do in the DNA.
But on your report, you only list the complainant suspects then if the agency reports that to you.
Correct. Sometimes there will be names associated to GSR kits where those names are not associated as either a complainant or a suspect in a particular case.
And in the evidence that you tested, though, the only, samplings taken directly from a person's, body, that tested positive for GSR was that of Armani Wallace, correct?
Yes, that is correct. As far as the gun that test kits.
And just to be clear, in terms of the clothing that was submitted to y'all, this is, well, I think never mind, what's all that? Like that. House witness.
Nothing further, Judge.
Is this man excused?
Please do.
You are excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And we're going to take a short break, ladies and gentlemen, about 10 minutes. Relax, get your luggage, and report back outside. The jury and the witness shall be allowed to exit first. Everyone remain seated. Thank you. Otherwise.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
That's great.
Very rough, not.
The jury is present and the state will go forward.
State of Texas, would arrest, Your Honor.
First bitch, very quickly, Your Honor.
State of Texas arrest and fall. Yeah. State's rested. What says defense?
Defense calls Armando Camargo.
Were your witnesses close by? Or your witnesses close by?
It should be.
Okay. You're fine. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, sir. Have a seat right there, please. Thank you.
Good morning again, Mr. Camargo. Thank you for being back with us. Obviously, we spoke some the other day. I wanted to follow up with you on some of the things that we talked about. On the how many times do you recall speaking with officers about what took place during the investigation?
I don't know.
Would you say that it was at least twice, if not more?
Five to seven.
Okay. Um, do you recall being administered a lineup?
You said what now?
Do you recall being shown a number of photographs?
Yes, sir.
And during the were you in fact shown two different sets of photographs?
Yes, sir.
And during that first set of photographs, you identified two people as having been shooters, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you told the officer at the time that on a scale of 1 to 10, you were an 8 in terms of certainty as to the two people you identified being the individuals who fired, correct?
Yes, sir.
Those individuals are not sitting here in this courtroom, are they?
Nothing.
In the second lineup, you also identified two other individuals, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that lineup, that was, I believe it was people you thought that you saw in the van, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And those two individuals you identified in that lineup, they are not in this courtroom, are they?
No.
And in that set of photographs, you said on a scale of 1 to 10, about a 6 out of 10, that you believed that the two individuals you identified were who you saw in the van, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you originally testified, you said that you had gone off by yourself. Do you recall telling Officer Sauceda that because Mr. Escamilla had been drinking, he was looking for a fight, and so you left and went off by yourself?
He was looking for a fight.
Do you recall saying that?
I don't remember no time.
All right. If you were to review that that interview, do you think that would help refresh your recollection? All right. Put a pin in that for now. In terms of, so as you sit here now today, your testimony is that he was not looking for a fight, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall when you testified here the other day, I believe you said that when you pulled up at D Money Daiquiris, the Sprinter van wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall having told officers that when you and Jerry pulled up that the Sprinter van was there?
Right.
So is it the case that you were confused then, or do you just not remember exactly, or now you believe that it wasn't there? Can you clarify that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Okay. So in that same vein, is it fair to say that you've been asked questions that you've answered that perhaps you don't have a clear memory about?
Right.
Okay. But you understand that the answers to those questions are being used in a murder trial, right?
Right.
And you understand that the answers that you've given are being analyzed by this jury and determining whether or not the man sitting at this table is guilty of murder, right?
Right.
And just again, you never identified the defendant. The people that you did identify are not in this courtroom today.
Correct.
All right. And of course, this was back in March of 2023 when your memory was fresh of the incident. Is that accurate? You also have testified that you didn't hear anybody yell gun. correct?
Correct.
Alright. In 2024, were you, in fact, convicted of making a false statement to law enforcement?
Correct.
And that conviction specifically, involved reporting that someone had a firearm.
Correct.
Okay? And you later pled guilty, correct? If you're providing answers to questions that you may not remember, why should this jury believe your testimony here now?
I mean, I think my friend died in front of me.
And that's very painful, right?
Yes, it is.
You'd like somebody to pay for that, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that you'd like whoever's responsible to pay for that?
Yes, sir.
But you can't tell this jury that that man's responsible for that, right? Obviously, you were much closer than any officer was to what was going on, right?
Yes, sir.
And, do you recall, and you may not, and I'd like you to tell me if you don't remember something rather than say yes or no to it, okay? Do you recall?
A witness gets to answer in a fair opportunity to answer a question. You can't restrict him one way or the other. If his answer is different from what you're making parameters to, that's not fair to a witness. Ask your question and then he gets a fair opportunity to answer it. But you can't be.
All I've said, Judge, was if he does
It's
it,
like, tell the jury in my own words what's happened. Come on, you can't suggest an answer. Ask your question and he has a fair opportunity to answer it.
okay. Do you recall whether or not there were, a number of people in the immediate vicinity, wearing red jackets or red hoodies?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall what the individuals that you identified in the photo arrays were wearing?
I don't know.
When you were talking to the officers, you said that, do you recall saying that you were just getting bad vibes?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, when you testified the other day, you indicated, I believe, that at the time that you put the gun on your seat, was it on your seat or in your lap?
Beside my seat.
Okay. You testified that the door may not have been completely closed at that time. You indicated that, I believe that you were concerned because you saw people with guns, right? And we've already established that you can't say that this defendant was one of those people. Would it be fair then for other people to be concerned if they saw you pull a gun out and put it on the seat?
No, sir.
When well, let me ask it this way. Do you believe that you said you did not see any kind of physical altercation, correct? You also, though, testified that all you had to do was tell Mr. Escamilla to get in the truck and he got in. Do you recall telling the officers that you were trying to get him to get in the truck? All right, and I want to straighten something up too, because I think I may have made a misstatement. Regarding the lineups, one of them involved asking you the photographs. I'm sorry, let me use the same word. Regarding the photographs that you were shown, one of the sets were asking you to identify the people that you saw Jerry arguing with, right? Originally, though, you testified that you didn't see an argument. You just got a call from a friend. Right. So if you didn't see the argument, you just got a call from a friend, how were you able to identify or attempt to identify to officers who it was that he was arguing with? Because those only people around him. When you say the only people around him, how many people would you say were in the vicinity of the van and the truck at that time? Five, 6 people around. Okay. What would you estimate, if you had to, the distance between your truck and the van was? Probably about like 2 feet away. 2 feet? Yeah. So literally right next to each other. Okay. When you saw Jerry with individuals around him, the 5 or 6 people, where were they standing? In front of the van and truck? And Jerry with him. Oh, the other people were standing in front of Jerry. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Where did you see Jerry standing in relationship to the van and the truck? In front? Yeah. And were y'all pulled up to a sidewalk? Oh, it was like in front of a club, yeah, something like that. All right, so there were people milling about the area? You said what? There were people moving around the area. Yeah. Okay. Would you say that it was that there were fewer people around the van and the truck than in general were in the parking lot? Like, let me clarify for you. There were a lot of people there that night, right? Right. There's a lot of movement all around, correct? Right. Right. You said though that there were about 5 or 6 people around Jerry. Right. Were there a lot of people walking by that area? Or was it off by itself? Not really, just off by itself. Off by itself? Yeah. Okay. I believe you were able to identify to detectives that you saw the mini Draco, correct? Correct. Okay. And so whoever had, or if somebody fired that firearm, then the person who had it was probably at least one of the shooters. Is that accurate? Right. Okay. You said that as you were backing out, that did the shooting start before you started reversing the vehicle, or did it start afterward?
It started whenever I was backing up.
Okay. The subjects who started shooting then, you said that Jerry was standing in front of the truck, right?
Right.
So was it the same group of people that were standing around Jerry that started shooting first?
I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Okay. And so if the defendant wasn't in that group, then he wouldn't have been one of the ones who shot first, right?
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know that? Okay. Did you know, or did you have time to notice if gunshots were coming from other areas of the parking area?
Sort of, yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Do you know if there was any other cause for that, or was it related to the fact that shooting started near where you were and the vehicle being shot up?
Yes.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you. Pass the way.
Did you slow down, stop, and look and see who all was shooting?
No, sorry. If I did, I would have been.
You were just trying to get out of there, weren't you? And how did all this affect you? Mental wise? When you got through with all this, were you starting to become a little bit paranoid because of this?
Yeah.
And this incident where you made this phone call to the police and made a false report.
Right.
Did that end up in you having to go to the Fannin Pavilion?
Yes, I did.
And why did you have to go to the Fannin Pavilion that night?
I was traumatized. I see guns around and just bring me flashbacks for, what happened.
So that night was kind of a mental breakdown, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And even though you pled guilty to it because you did make the phone call,
I did.
was it as a result of all this stuff that
Pretty much.
have you been okay since that? Or are you still having problems?
Yeah, I did.
You still have issues?
Yes, man.
Have you been seeing anybody recently as far as psychiatrist,
No.
counselor? Okay. Are you on any medications for it?
No.
But have you been getting a little better?
Trying to get there.
Okay. That night when you're wandering around, were there other people wandering around with guns all in that parking lot? Were there other people with guns in that parking lot?
Which one?
In the parking lot where you were at that D-Money Daiquiris, were there people with guns out in the parking lot?
Nah, I ain't see nothing. I just took a van with guns. That's it.
Okay, well, you saw one guy with a Draco. Was he from the van?
Yes, sir.
And you saw another one with a gun tucked in here. Was he from the van?
Yeah.
Was anybody out there in the crowd concerned about them having that Draco and walking around with guns?
I mean, they should.
Nobody ran or started shooting at them, did they?
Nah.
Okay. So when the defense attorney asked if you put that out there, did it cause anybody alarm? You were backing out at the time, weren't you?
No.
And trying to get out of there.
Okay.
So were you even trying to run towards them or go towards them, or were you going away from them?
No, I was trying to get away.
Okay, I'll pass with it. Anything else?
I just have one follow-up. You said regarding the call that you'd seen guns and so it kind of triggered you. So if there were firearms, then why was it a false report?
Because, I lied to people, my name and everything. But, I was trying to get in that situation. So, when I seen guns and stuff like that, of course, I'm already traumatized by what I seen my friend did and stuff. So that's what happened. And I guess whenever they came, everybody done left. So I guess the police thought I was lying about it.
Well, you said that you guess the police thought you were lying about it, but if they just thought you were lying, I mean,
I mean,
you,
my mind was already out everywhere and stuff, you know, so.
that's the witness.
No further judge.
All right, this man excused.
I know, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're
And released.
You're excused. Next.
Next would be Detective Levon.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Do. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Morning, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Your can you spell your name for the record, please?
Aaron, Aaron, Llewellyn, W-A-L-L.
Thank you. You're employed with Beaumont Police Department?
I am.
In what capacity?
I'm a detective.
How long have you been with BPD?
I started as a dispatcher in 1998, became an officer in 1999.
Okay, and so has BPD been the only law enforcement agency that you've been primarily employed by?
Yes, I was a reserve deputy in Orange County for a few months prior to starting.
Okay. And so, when did you become a detective?
In 2007,
So you've been doing it a while.
a little bit.
On the morning of March 18th, 2023, did you assist in the investigation of the shooting that occurred at D Money's Daiquiri?
I did.
And the lead detective on that was Detective Torres, is that correct?
Yes.
However, you were one of the detectives who followed up with Mr. Camargo, is that correct?
Correct.
And other than that, what other what was your other involvement in the investigation?
I helped locate surveillance video from surrounding businesses, and I also helped execute a search warrant on the party van.
Okay. And in the party van, let me ask you first, let's back up just a little bit. By the time that you were involved in the investigation, did you have some idea of what the original officers at the scene had reported as far as who they thought might have been involved, what they believed they saw?
No.
Okay. So when you helped execute the search warrant on the van, we heard testimony from Ms. Hargroder that the red hoodies or red jackets that were in the van had been pointed out to her, and that's why she took special notice of them. Do you know why those were pointed out to her?
I imagine they were listed as part of suspect description clothing.
Okay. And so one of those was turned inside out, is that correct?
Yes.
And one of them was underneath the purse, the Coors purse, correct?
That I don't recall.
That Coors purse had a firearm in it, correct?
Yes.
And that firearm, it was unable to be cleared at the time. Is that accurate?
Correct.
What prevents a firearm from being cleared?
Corrosion, they could be in a state of malfunction.
Jammed,
Yes.
colloquially speaking.
Right.
Colloquially speaking, it was jammed. And was there a obviously it wasn't cleared, but there was a shell that was kind of lodged in the slide
Yes.
and not entirely chambered.
It was not a battery.
So when that happens, is that typically something that occurs while a firearm is being discharged?
I'm not following your question.
Well, an initial jam doesn't typically happen when you first chamber around. Is that?
No, that's not correct.
That's not correct. Okay. Let me ask it a different way. When somebody chambers around and it jams, do they typically leave it like that?
A jam can be induced in a number of ways. Sometimes when it's loading, sometimes when it's firing. If they're not familiar with the firearm, they may leave it not knowing how to fix it.
Would it make sense to carry around with you a firearm that was jammed?
No.
Would it make more sense that if a firearm that was being carried around was jammed, it was jammed because it was discharged?
Say that again.
Would it make more sense that a firearm that was being carried, right, that if it was jammed because it was being discharged?
No.
No. So if you said that it wouldn't make sense to carry around a firearm that was jammed, right?
It would not make sense to carry a firearm that jams. Basically, an expensive rock at that point.
Right.
However, if they're not carried in a holster, they're not maintained. Something can happen to them, take it out of battery that was not induced by the fire.
Okay. The red hoodie that was underneath that purse, was that the one with the basketball logo or was that a different one? All right. I asked you, I think, I don't remember, one of them was inside out, correct?
Yes.
And so is it possible that it was inside out because it was taken off quickly?
Could be.
Okay. In terms of your interview with Mr. Camargo, or yours and the other detective's interview, I should say, was there an impression that Mr. Escamilla had been involved in an altercation?
Yes.
And Mr. Camargo never indicated that he saw a physical altercation himself, correct?
No.
Did he indicate, though, that he had gone off by himself because his friend was looking for a fight?
No.
No. What do you recall as being the explanation for why they were apart?
Collins going. This bar is kind of a catalyst for people hanging out. They overflow in the parking lot and it becomes a big social gathering. That was the impression that I got. They just separated socially.
At that time, while you and the other detective were there, is when y'all collected the firearm that Mr. Camargo had that evening, correct?
Sort of. We were informed that it was in another location. That location for recovery.
Okay, it was Lynette Wilson was the one who had the firearm, correct?
Correct, but she was not at the interview.
Okay, she was not at the interview, but the interview took place at Mr. Camargo's home?
Correct.
Okay. Where was Wilson?
On Grand Street.
Okay. So did you learn that because y'all asked about where that firearm was or if he had a firearm?
He told us about it.
Okay. In terms of the search warrant that was executed, do you remember how many firearms had rounds in the chamber? Yes. Sir.
Like three.
Right. One of those was the mini Draco, correct?
Correct.
There was another 40 caliber that had a round in the chamber, correct?
Right.
And then there was the 9mm that was located in that core's purse on top of one of the hoodies, correct?
Correct.
All right. In addition to the hoodie, so the hoodie, the purse, and the mini Draco, those were all together, correct?
No.
No. Okay. Where was the core's purse? Passenger side, captain's chair, middle row. Is that correct?
Passenger side captain chair. Correct.
All right. And then, so where was the hoodie?
Which one?
The one that was in the seat.
The floorboard between the captain's chairs, driver's side captain's chair.
Right. So there was one in the floorboard, correct?
Right.
And one in the seat, correct?
Yes.
Jacket. I'm sorry, hoodie or jacket. Let me. Was the red jacket under the Michael Kors purse?
Yes.
Okay. And the Draco, that was also in the same location, correct?
It was on the back floorboard between the four captain's chairs.
Black floorboard. Okay. But I had. In terms of, you didn't assist with the collection of GSR kits, did you? Okay. Do you have any knowledge with regard to why some kits may have been sent to one lab and others to another lab? Okay. Would that be typical when you're lead detective on a case that you would send some to one lab and others to another?
I have no knowledge as to why. That would be a decision like they made by the funding department.
Okay. So you as the detective wouldn't instruct where to send those various items for testing?
No.
Okay. You, and I could be wrong, were you part of the photo lineup that was administered to come? Okay. So, but you did collect the security footage from demoneyed activity, correct?
No, I believe I got that one. Got some surrounding businesses.
Some surrounding businesses. Which videos did you collect?
World, I said I went from World Gym, Thirsties, and
Okay. Did you review those videos or just collect them?
just collect them, basically.
Okay. And I guess, did that then, well, let me ask this. So Detective Wilson is presently out of town, correct?
Correct.
And Detective Torres is also presently out of town, correct? You don't know? All right, I'll pass the witness, Sean.
I have no question, Joe.
Was this man excused?
Please, Joe.
You are excused, sir. Right, next.
Judge, could we break for lunch and then
come back right afterward.
Who you have next? So,
I need to have a discussion with my client.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, can all of you return back at 1:15? 1:15, please. Be mindful, as I know you will, of the instructions the court has given to you. Everyone else remains seated while the jury exits first.
What started as a routine criminal trial quickly turned into a detailed battle over evidence, witness credibility, and what really happened on the night of a deadly shooting. As the trial continued, detectives took the stand to explain their role in the investigation. One detective described how officers recovered surveillance footage from nearby businesses and helped execute a search warrant connected to the case. Prosecutors focused on physical evidence discovered during that search, including multiple firearms, red clothing that matched witness descriptions, and other items investigators believed could help connect key individuals to the events surrounding the shooting. The defense, however, challenged nearly every conclusion. Attorneys questioned investigators about a firearm that had been found jammed inside a purse. They repeatedly pressed the detective on whether the weapon could have malfunctioned before the incident, or whether the jam suggested it had recently been fired. The detective pushed back, explaining that firearms can jam for many different reasons, and that a malfunction alone does not prove a weapon was discharged during a crime. The exchange created one of the most tense moments of the hearing. Defense attorneys also focused on clothing found inside a vehicle, particularly red hoodies and jackets that matched descriptions provided by witnesses. Investigators were questioned about where those items were located, whether they had been moved, and if there were innocent explanations for their condition. The goal was clear: create doubt about whether the evidence truly proved what prosecutors claimed. As testimony continued, the courtroom became a battle of interpretation rather than simple facts. Both sides agreed on what evidence had been found, but they strongly disagreed about what that evidence actually meant. Prosecutors argued that the items recovered supported their theory of the case. The defense argued that assumptions were being made without enough proof to connect every piece of evidence to the alleged crime. By the time the detective stepped down from the witness stand, the jury had been presented with competing narratives and a growing list of questions. The judge then recessed the trial for lunch, while attorneys prepared for the next phase of testimony. With both sides fighting over every detail, it was clear that the final verdict would depend not only on what evidence was discovered, but on how the jury ultimately interpreted it. Do you think physical evidence is always enough to prove a case, or can different interpretations create reasonable doubt? Like and subscribe for more real courtroom moments.